Welcome aboard. Glow showing Europe-Africa airplane. Thanks for subscribing to our history channel. Get ready to dive into the fascinating story of Christopher Columbus, the explorer whose voyages changed the world forever. Stay tuned for captivating tales, surprising facts, and a journey back to the age of discovery. Throwaway account for obvious reasons. You can call me Chris. Yeah, that Chris, though history books left out a lot of what really happened. This isn't about politics or exploration or spices. This is about my wife, Isabel. The woman who made me believe she was my queen, only to find out she was playing puppet master behind the scenes the entire time. When I first met Isabel, I thought I hit the jackpot. She was sharp, confident, always talking about legacy and ambition. Greatness doesn't wait, she'd say, her voice dripping with that smug Castilian flair. She claimed she believed in me, in my dreams of sailing west to reach the East Indies. Said she supported the vision. Said she loved me for my courage, for dreaming bigger than the small-town Genoese nonsense we grew up with. In the beginning, she played the perfect partner. Cooked, flattered, stroked my ego, and told me she'd help me get the funding I needed. Said she had connections in Spain. Even claimed she was close with Queen Isabella, the Isabella. Naturally, I bought it. I was desperate. And in love, or what I thought was love. Foolish, I know. But cracks started to show. Small stuff at first. She'd forget to pass on messages from court contacts. She'd lose letters I asked her to send. And when I confronted her, she'd always turn it on me. If you were really serious, you'd go yourself. Or worse, maybe they don't want to talk to a crazy map doodler from Genoa. I brushed it off. Thought maybe she was stressed, or scared I'd succeed and leave her behind. I didn't want to believe she was undermining me. That was mistake number one. So I took her advice. I packed my bags and headed to Spain to make the pitch myself. I left her back in Cordoba, thinking she'd hold things down, send letters, maybe even visit. She didn't. Not once. I spent 7 months groveling in royal halls, pitching my voyage to anyone with a feathered hat and a seat near the queen. I was laughed out of every chamber, treated like a lunatic. You want to go west to get east? You'll sail off the edge and feed the sea monsters. It was humiliating. I slept in stables, skipped meals, got sick twice. But I kept thinking about her. About Isabel. I thought she was rooting for me. Until I got a letter. And not from her. It was from a guy named Rodrigo, some nobody clerk in Seville. He thought he was doing me a favor, said he was sorry to hear about my divorce. Excuse me. What? I read that line 3 times like it was written in Latin. Divorce? I never even knew we were fighting, let alone separated. I rushed back home thinking there had to be some mistake. Maybe he meant someone else. Nope. She'd changed the locks. Told the neighbors I was mentally unstable and ran off chasing imaginary continents. I had to sleep in a damn cart outside the house I paid for. The next morning, she let me in for 5 minutes. No apology, no explanation. Just this smug look like I was the fool for thinking she'd stick around. She tossed my stuff into the dirt, literally, and said, "You've embarrassed me enough, Cristobal. I need a man, not a myth." Yeah, that one hurt. But here's where it really gets good. Turns out she had been talking to Queen Isabella. Behind my back. Feeding her lies about how I was unstable, obsessed, and possibly dangerous. And then, wait for it, she made her own proposal to the court to fund an expedition. Not for me. For her cousin. Her freaking cousin. He didn't even know which direction west was. This guy thought the moon was made of goat milk. And she tried to hand him my dream. So there I was, kicked out of my own house, reputation in ruins, and my dreams hijacked by goat milk cousin. I honestly thought about going back to Genoa and crawling into a wine barrel. But then something unexpected happened. About 2 weeks later, I was crashing on the floor of a monastery, shout out to Fray Diego for not letting me starve to death, when a guy shows up in the middle of the night asking for me by name. Sketchy as hell. Black cloak, hood up, looking like a rejected opera villain. He says he's an advisor to someone who matters and wants to talk off the record. I meet him in the garden. Dead silent, cold as sin. He leans in and whispers, "They know you're right." I thought I misheard him. "They've run the numbers," he said. "The queen believes in the voyage. But your wife poisoned the well. They think you're unstable. A risk." So there it was, confirmation. I wasn't crazy. Isabel was sabotaging me behind the scenes. But this guy? He said he liked what I stood for. That the queen might reconsider if I could find a way to prove I wasn't a lunatic and didn't have baggage. So what? I fake a whole new identity? I asked, half joking. He didn't even blink. Just said, it wouldn't be the first time someone changed his name to change his fate. And that, Reddit, is how Cristoforo Colombo started introducing himself as Cristobal Colon, reborn, repackaged, and pissed off with a purpose. I ditched the wife, burned the baggage, got a loan from a banker friend of Fray Diego's, and started putting together a real plan, in secret. Meanwhile, Isabel? Oh, she thought I was begging my way back to Genoa with my tail between my legs. She didn't know I was about to turn the whole damn world upside down. Fast forward a year, and guess who gets called in front of Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand themselves? Yeah, me. Thanks to the cloak guy, still don't know his real name. I just call him Batman. And some help from Diego's banker buddy, I got a second audience. This time, I was clean, sober, sharp, and absolutely radiating man with a plan, energy. No wife to sabotage me. No cousin goat milk to screw it up. I laid it all out. The theory, the maps, the route. I was bold but careful, confident but respectful. I made eye contact with the Queen and said, "Your Majesties, if you grant me ships, I'll find a new route to the Indies and bring you more gold than Portugal could ever imagine." They said yes. 3 ships. Crew. Funding. I walked out of that hall in stunned silence. Honestly, I thought I'd cry. I didn't, not yet. Too much pride. That night, I went to a tavern near the docks to celebrate with my new crew. That's when she showed up. Yup, Isabel. In a cloak like she was trying to cosplay nobility. She slid into the seat across from me like we were just 2 old lovers reconnecting. "Congratulations," she said, barely hiding that bitter smile. "I see the Queen's standards have loosened." I didn't say anything. Then she leaned in and said, "You know, if you just listened to me, we could have done this together." I laughed. Loudly. Enough for a few heads to turn. "You mean after you divorced me without telling me, tried to destroy my reputation, and handed my life's work to your inbred cousin?" She had the nerve to look offended. "I was protecting you from failure. No apology. No remorse. Just more gaslighting." I stood up, dropped a gold coin on the table for her drink, and said, "Enjoy the shore, Isabel. I'm heading west." And I walked out. I felt 10 feet tall. That was the last time I saw her, or so I thought. Spoiler, it wasn't. So we set sail. August 3rd, 1492. 3 ships, a mismatched crew of half-believers and full-on drunks, and me, Cristobal Colon, formerly Christopher Columbus, now reborn as the guy finally proving every hater wrong. First few days? Rough seas, puke everywhere. One guy tried to fight the wind with a broom. But morale was high. I kept the compass close and my journal closer. I wasn't just sailing west, I was chasing freedom. I was finally done with Isabel. Or so I thought. 8 days in, we're passing the Canary Islands, and one of the deckhands, a wiry little snitch named Mateo, tells me there's someone in the lower cargo hold who shouldn't be there. At first, I figured it was a rat the size of a man. Would have made more sense. But no. I go down there myself, lantern in hand, heart pounding like a war drum. And sitting right there between a crate of salted cod and the wine barrels is Isabel. Cloak, boots, and that same smug expression like she was the captain now. "Hi, honey," she said like this was some surprise second honeymoon. I just stared at her. For a full 10 seconds. No words. Just seething, stunned silence. What the hell are you doing here?" She stood up and brushed off her dress like she hadn't just stowed away on a royal expedition. "I couldn't let you do this without me. We're a team, remember?" I had her hauled up to the deck immediately. The crew was stunned. Some thought she was a witch. Others assumed she was some spy from Portugal. I was too angry to care. I ordered her put under guard and confined to the stern cabin. She tried to argue, started ranting about how she knew things, how the Queen still trusted her, how I'd never survive the voyage without her counsel. All I heard was, "I'm here to ruin this, too." And now I had to deal with an open sea, a restless crew, and my deranged ex-wife locked in a room below deck. I couldn't throw her overboard. Believe me, the thought crossed my mind. But something told me she still had a few cards left to play. By week 3, we were losing wind, literally and emotionally. The men were tired. Supplies were okay. But the ocean? Just miles and miles of the same damn horizon. Morale was dipping hard, and wouldn't you know it? That's when Isabel decided to become everyone's best friend. She'd somehow convinced the guard to let her roam during daylight hours, said she needed air for her delicate constitution. Right. So there she was, fluttering around the deck, smiling, handing out dried fruit and whispering little poison seeds in everyone's ears. "You know, he never actually finished school," she told the ship's quartermaster. "To be honest, Cristobal struggles with direction," she told one of the helmsmen. "And to the cook, he doesn't even like fish." "Who doesn't like fish? Can you trust a man like that?" It was all said with that fake sweet voice, like butter melting on a hot knife. Most of the crew were too seasick or sunburned to pay attention at first. But then we had a compass go weird. Like truly weird. One minute it's pointing north, the next it's twitching like it's possessed. The men freaked. "We're cursed. The stars have turned on us." And guess who just happened to overhear and offer comfort? Yup, Isabel. She gathered them at night on the lower deck, telling stories, praying aloud, pretending to be their spiritual anchor while gently implying maybe I didn't know what I was doing after all. And when I confronted her, she just smiled and said, "I'm helping, darling." "You're welcome." I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. I couldn't show weakness. Not now. Not when I'd fought this hard to even get on the damn water. So instead, I pulled aside Martine, my most loyal crewman, and told him, "Keep an eye on her. And if she tries to touch the helm, tie her to the mast." Meanwhile, I kept the ship steady. Eyes on the stars. Ears on the muttering men. And heart? It was somewhere between rage and despair. I knew what she was doing. She wasn't just trying to ruin me. She was trying to take the credit. You ever been so tired your bones feel like they're humming? That was me, around day 38. Barely sleeping, eating dried beans that smelled like feet, trying to keep 3 ships from falling apart. Literally and socially. And right when things started to stabilize a tiny bit, I woke up to yelling. Middle of the night. Cold wind. Full moon. I climb out of my quarters, and the entire main deck of the Santa Maria is lit up with lanterns, and every damn man is shouting at once. At the center of it all, Isabel, standing like she was giving a sermon. My ship, my voyage, my ex-wife, preaching mutiny like it was Sunday Mass. "She lied to you," she shrieked, pointing at me when she saw me step out. "He promised gold and glory. Where is it? Where's the land? Where's the proof?" Someone in the crowd yelled, "We should turn back." Another shouted, "We've gone too far." And then one guy, Juan, the carpenter, picked up a rope and looked at me like he was calculating the exact length of noose it would take to shut me up forever. I didn't panic. I didn't raise my voice. I just stepped forward and said, "You turn back now, and you'll spend the rest of your life telling stories about how you were almost a legend. Or you wait, just a few more days, and you become one." Silence. Heavy as hell. Then Martine, my guy, walked to my side, hand on his sword. Followed by the cook, then the helmsman. Not everyone, but enough. Still, the damage was done. My ex-wife had almost gotten me killed. On open sea. Surrounded by desperate men with knives. And all because she couldn't stand the thought of me being the hero without her. I had her locked below deck again, this time chained, and put Martine in charge of feeding her once a day. No talking. No visitors. But the trust? Between me and the crew? That took a hit I could feel in my chest. And worst of all, that damn compass still wasn't acting right. Something out there was messing with everything, including my sense of direction, my grip on the crew, and honestly, my grip on reality. Day 60-something. I've stopped counting. The sea starts to shift. The wind changes. Birds, real ones, start circling overhead. That's how I knew we were close. Nature was waking up. I could feel it in my gut, like some ancient compass inside me had started working again. Then, just before sunrise, a cry from the Pinta. "Tierra! Land!" We all lost it. Men screaming, weeping, hugging. One guy passed out flat on the deck. It was the first hope we'd had in weeks that wasn't just a desperate illusion. I felt something inside me crack open. Relief, pride, exhaustion. I leaned over the railing and whispered, "We did it." Then Martine came running. "Capitan," he said, breathless. "It's your wife." I didn't even ask. I just ran below deck. And there she was. Isabel, somehow out of her chains, standing in the cabin wearing my clothes, my captain's coat, boots, even my sash. She had smeared ash on her face, darkened her skin, and was muttering to herself in some gibberish language. "What the hell are you doing?" I barked. She looked at me like I was the crazy one. "When we reach land, I'll be the native queen. You'll introduce me as the first discovery." I blinked. "I'm going to get to the shore first," she added, eyes glowing with manic energy, "and they'll worship me." I'll speak in tongues, I'll dance, and when the queen asks, you'll say I was the one who made peaceful contact. Then she'll finally see my worth. I stood there stunned. She was dead serious. Isabel, I said, slowly, you are not going ashore. You owe me this, Cristobal, she hissed. You stole my glory. Then she lunged at me. Actually lunged, with one of the broken chain links in her hand like a blade. Martine tackled her before she made it across the room. She screamed, kicked, cursed in 3 languages. We tied her tighter this time. No more cabin. She was confined to the ship's anchor hold. Dark, wet, no way to talk to anyone. I should have felt satisfied, but I didn't. I felt hollow. We'd found land. I was about to make history, and all I could think about was how the woman I once called my wife nearly ruined it all, again. The moment we hit land was indescribable. October 12th. Early morning. The shore was gold, the trees green as emeralds, and the sky clear in a way that felt like a reward. I stepped off the boat first, boots in the sand, heart pounding. The men followed behind, some kissing the ground, others crying openly. We'd done it. I had done it. After years of ridicule, rejection, and one bad-hit ex-wife trying to sabotage the whole thing, I had found the new world. And then, the drums started. Not from us, from the tree line. Locals. Dozens of them. Maybe 100. Painted, decorated, holding spears and looking confused as hell. I raised my hands slowly, palms open. Peaceful. I had no script for this, no manual. Just instinct and whatever Spanish charm I had left after 2 months at sea. I offered gifts. Beads, bells, cloth. They accepted, hesitant but calm. We were making progress. That's when Martine sprinted up behind me, pale as salt. She's gone, he gasped. What? She escaped the hold. I couldn't even form words. I turned to the ships, and there she was. Isabel, in full feathers. Don't ask where she got them. She'd covered herself in stolen cloth, painted her face with berry juice, and was standing at the bow of the Santa Maria like some deranged goddess of colonial madness. Then she jumped, fully dove into the water, and swam to shore. The natives parted when she emerged, screaming something in fake tongues, arms raised like she was calling on spirits. The men stared. The locals stared. I stared. And then she hugged one of the tribal leaders, like they were old friends, then pointed at me and shouted, "He is the enemy." Silence. No one moved. Then one of the locals, no joke, laughed. Like, genuinely laughed. And then said something that sounded suspiciously like, "What the hell?" I stepped forward, calm but ready to throw her over my damn shoulder if I had to. She's sick, I told them in Spanish, pointing to my head. Enferma. She's confused. More laughter. Then the leader smiled and gently moved Isabel aside. One of the women offered her water. They treated her like a child, polite but dismissive. And that was the only reason this didn't become a bloodbath. Later that night, after peace offerings were exchanged and fires were lit, the leader took me aside. Through gestures and translator help, he asked, "Why do you bring the broken one?" And I just said, "It's a long story." The moment we hit land was indescribable. October 12th. Early morning. The shore was gold, the trees green as emeralds, and the sky clear in a way that felt like a reward. I stepped off the boat first, boots in the sand, heart pounding. The men followed behind, some kissing the ground, others crying openly. We'd done it. I had done it. After years of ridicule, rejection, and one bad-hit ex-wife trying to sabotage the whole thing, I had found the new world. And then, the drums started. Not from us, from the tree line. Locals. Dozens of them. Maybe 100. Painted, decorated, holding spears and looking confused as hell. I raised my hands slowly, palms open. Peaceful. I had no script for this, no manual. Just instinct and whatever Spanish charm I had left after 2 months at sea. I offered gifts. Beads, bells, cloth. They accepted, hesitant but calm. We were making progress. That's when Martine sprinted up behind me, pale as salt. She's gone, he gasped. What? She escaped the hold. I couldn't even form words. I turned to the ships, and there she was. Isabel, in full feathers. Don't ask where she got them. She'd covered herself in stolen cloth, painted her face with berry juice, and was standing at the bow of the Santa Maria like some deranged goddess of colonial madness. Then she jumped, fully dove into the water and swam to shore. The natives parted when she emerged, screaming something in fake tongues, arms raised like she was calling on spirits. The men stared. The locals stared. I stared. And then she hugged one of the tribal leaders, like they were old friends, then pointed at me and shouted, "He's the enemy." Silence. No one moved. Then one of the locals, no joke, laughed. Like, genuinely laughed. And then said something that sounded suspiciously like, "What the hell?" I stepped forward, calm but ready to throw her over my damn shoulder if I had to. "She's sick," I told them in Spanish, pointing to my head. "Enferma. She's..." Confused. More laughter. Then the leader smiled and gently moved Isabel aside. One of the women offered her water. They treated her like a child, polite but dismissive. And that was the only reason this didn't become a bloodbath. Later that night, after peace offerings were exchanged and fires were lit, the leader took me aside. Through gestures and translator help, he asked, "Why do you bring the broken one?" And I just said, "It's a long story." We spent a few weeks trading with the locals, gathering samples, and mapping the coastline. The land was beautiful, like something out of a dream, but I knew we couldn't stay long. Supplies were low, and morale was frayed. We needed to head back to Spain with proof. Gold, spices, birds, plants, whatever we could carry. One night, exhausted beyond belief, I passed out at my desk below deck. I'd been writing for hours. Updating the ship's logs, drafting letters to the Queen, trying to frame the discovery in a way that didn't sound like barely contained chaos. I fell asleep with the quill in my hand. When I woke up, the journal was still there. But the ink was smeared. Pages were shuffled. A few were missing. I flipped through it. And there it was, entire sections rewritten, in Isabel's handwriting. She had forged entries. Claimed she had foreseen the landfall days before. Said she had communed with the natives peacefully before any man set foot on shore. She even claimed she saved the expedition from a mutiny by bravely calming the crew with a song. A song. I checked the rest of my documents. She'd added her name to every major discovery. Every list. Every map. I ran down to the hold, heart pounding. She was just lying there in her hammock, smiling at me like a cat that had eaten an entire coop of canaries. "You're welcome," she said. I didn't say a word. I just turned around, went back up, and rewrote every page. I stayed up all night fixing her lies, sealing them in wax, hiding them in a chest under the navigator's bed. But I knew then what I'd refused to admit for months. Isabel wasn't just trying to ruin the mission. She was trying to own it. If she couldn't beat me at sea, she beat me in the history books. I had to get her off that ship. We set sail the next morning. The voyage back was supposed to be the easy part, right? Just sail straight, keep the crew alive, and get to Spain with our heads held high. But nope. Isabel? She wasn't done with her little games. She started working the crew hard, whispering in their ears, offering coins, promising favors, telling them how the captain was a liar and how she was the real brains behind the whole thing. At first, only a few listened. But after 2 months at sea, with everyone exhausted, seasick, and desperate, her poison spread fast. One night, Martine found her slipping a pouch of coins into the pocket of a deckhand. "Isabel, what the hell?" Martine growled. She just smiled, that fake sweet smile that made your skin crawl. "Just helping the men see the truth. Don't you want to know what really happened on this voyage?" Martine didn't answer. He just told me. That night, I called a meeting. Told the men, the ship sails as one or it sinks as one. No whispers. No bribes. No lies. Some men nodded, others glared. I made Martine second in command and put guards on Isabel's cage, stricter this time. But it didn't end there. One night, as I was trying to sleep, I heard shouts on deck. Isabel had somehow escaped again with a dagger. This time, she tried to cut the sails. Imagine my rage and disbelief. She was caught before she could do serious damage, but it made one thing crystal clear. This woman wasn't just a liar or a bitch. She was a danger. The crew looked at me differently after that. Some with pity, some with fear. I felt betrayed by every glance. I was angry, scared, exhausted, and honestly, part of me wanted to just throw in the towel. But then I remembered why I started this journey. We finally spotted land after weeks of tension so thick you could cut it with a dagger. Ironic, given Isabel's obsession with actual daggers. The crew was exhausted, ragged, and many looked like ghosts of the men who'd set sail months ago. But there was relief too, a hope that this nightmare was almost over. But then the real nightmare began. Word spread fast, faster than the ships themselves, that the New World had been found. And suddenly, everyone wanted a piece of the glory. Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand received us with pomp. Gold and jewels were thrown at our feet. Promises of titles and riches filled the air. Except, surprise, surprise, Isabel had been working the court long before we landed. She told her story. One where she was the hero, the native queen, the savior of the crew. She painted me as a reckless fool who only got lucky. The court was divided. Some believed her. Nobles whispered behind my back. Friends looked at me with doubt. I wanted to scream, to show them the journals, the maps, the notes. But Isabel had already planted doubts, stolen my credibility, and turned the narrative. I spent days pleading my case, writing letters, and gathering testimonies from the crew. But every time I presented evidence, Isabel had a counterstory, complete with fake documents and forged letters. The worst part? The Queen called me aside and said quietly, "Christopher, this is politics. History is written by those who win hearts, not just those who find new lands." I realized then that this wasn't just about discovery. It was about survival, of reputation, honor, and my own sanity. Isabel smiled from across the room, watching me lose ground. And I knew. This was just the beginning of a much longer voyage. After weeks of humiliation, whispers, and watching Isabel bask in the royal spotlight like she owned the place, I hit a breaking point. I realized pleading was useless. She was a master manipulator, and the court was already halfway convinced. So I did what any desperate man would do. I went underground. I started gathering the crew members who'd sailed with me, men who'd seen the real journey, felt the real dangers, and knew who had kept the expedition alive. We met in secret taverns, exchanged letters hidden in bread, and made plans to get the truth out. I contacted scholars, mapmakers, anyone willing to listen, and most importantly, to verify my journals and maps. I pushed for independent testimonies. Isabel, of course, caught wind of some of this. She sent spies disguised as servants, tried to intercept letters, and bribed informants. One night, I found a note slipped under my door. "Stop digging or your enemies will bury you deeper." It scared me, but also fueled my fire. I realized this fight wasn't just about me or Isabel. It was about legacy, the real story of what happened, and who really made history. So I kept fighting, quietly but fiercely. And in that struggle, I learned something important. Sometimes, the worst betrayals come from the ones closest to you. But that doesn't mean you have to give up. After months of secret meetings, presenting proof, and gathering allies, something incredible happened. The court finally agreed to examine the original journals, not the forged ones Isabel had fed them. Scholars pored over my notes, cross-referenced my maps with the reports from the crew, and slowly, the story began to shift. I wasn't just some lucky fool. I was the one who'd planned, navigated, and survived against impossible odds. Isabel's web of lies started to unravel. But here's the kicker. Even as the truth came out, the damage was done. The court split. Some still supported Isabel, dazzled by her charisma and political savvy. Others stood with me, moved by the undeniable proof. And through it all, I felt this deep sadness. Because the woman I married, the one I thought I knew, had shown herself to be the ultimate betrayer. Not just of me, but of the entire journey. I realized that sometimes, even when the truth wins, the scars it leaves behind don't heal overnight. Looking back, I can't even begin to unpack all the emotions: shock, anger, heartbreak, betrayal, exhaustion. Isabel wasn't just a bad wife. She was a force of chaos that nearly destroyed everything I'd worked for. But she also taught me something brutal. Trust is a gamble, and sometimes the person you trust the most can stab you in the back. What hurt the most wasn't just the lies or the sabotage. It was the betrayal of shared dreams, the future I thought we had. But here's the thing, I survived. The journey didn't end with her lies or with the court's whispers. I learned to protect myself, my work, my truth, and my heart. If there's one thing I'd tell anyone going through something similar, it's this. Don't let someone else rewrite your story. Hold on tight to your truth, no matter how messy or complicated it is. Keep your circle small but loyal. Trust is earned, not given. And when betrayal hits, don't let it break you. Use it as fuel to rise stronger, like I did. Isabel was a chapter in my life, a toxic, exhausting, unforgettable chapter. But she didn't write the whole book, and neither should anyone else. Thanks for reading. If you're dealing with someone like Isabel, remember, you're not alone, and your story isn't over yet. Christopher.